Byhalia first.
Yep.
Then decide. Depends on how far north it goes.
So if Adrian, again, our B-roll is Caleb Middle Lows with Adrian, North Pacific Storm Chasers. I mean, this one is the well-advertised right turning straight across the state storm down here. It's LP. So, you ready?
We're always ready, Matt.
He says we're ready.
Okay, and I think the thing is that I would be cautious that you're going to have to get south before you go to, I mean, maybe you get all the way to 55. Yeesh, that might be asking. Let me see. Let me double check how fast it is. A little more east. I'm concerned you might end up having to backtrack back to Holly Springs to get in front of it. I mean, I know there's going to probably be some other stuff, but this one's the well-advertised storm.
Right.
So, y'all be safe, all right?
Yes, sir. We will. We'll make sure to keep you updated and try to give you the best visual.
Okay, I appreciate that. That's a B-roll, just Caleb Middle. And Adrian with North Mississippi Storm Bus with you, TQ2.
We're also with Timothy Kern and Taylor Hunt.
Say one more time.
Also with Timothy Kern and Taylor Hunt.
Okay, I'll be on the lookout for y'all street. We'll see if we can get that on the front street here in a little bit. You all be safe. We'll talk a little bit.
Yes, sir.
Okay, it's our B-roll, just Caleb Middle there. Near the Tennessee state line. He is right there in that yellow.
My bad.
circle.
Cut a U-turn.
What I was talking about, getting down, getting in front.
At the next median.
Here is moving.
Are you off?
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to Byhalia and then drop south out of Byhalia to that road between Senatobia and Holly Springs. A U-turn. A U-turn. Sorry, he was on there and I kind of got distracted. Yeah, right up there is fine. But yeah, we're going to go to Byhalia, drop south. How y'all feel?
Pretty good.
So I was supposed to turn at that exit that we just passed.
Yeah, about a mile ago.
I was thinking it, but you didn't say anything, so I just kept going.
Yeah, that's my bad.
Picture of
That's me.
yeah, this TV.
That's so funny.
So
Oh,
I
it
sent
takes
him a
one.
picture of the
Adrian, what you say? The roads we were doing, that way I can just let Gabe know behind the scenes.
We're going to go to Byhalia, go south out of Byhalia to Highway 4 between Holly Springs and Senatobia right now.
Okay.
You can also tell him that I'm live on the app, and it should track our location, so he can see exactly where we are if he wants to tell people.
I wonder if this storm fired above the cap. Because, well,
It would have to drill down though, doesn't it?
yeah, I am seeing on the radar now. I wasn't seeing any rotational signatures. Damn it. Get in the right lane. still in the warm air regime. I feel like once these turn right, they'll probably continue at about 35.
Does that look straight to you?
No.
Forces in order for those to intensify.
The most recent update there with the BAM monitor behind you, I can check and see if we've got that chaser stuff up.
Yes, so let me actually get that discussion back up, because that is going to be important with watching what happens here over the next few hours. And some of the key points that it includes is going to be that, boy, this is going to be for, that looks to be a little bit later. This might not be the latest one. No, it is. Okay, so this is not the summarized version that I just had a moment ago. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Okay, so one of the areas to pay attention to is the probability of watch issuance is about 60%. Earlier this afternoon, it was at 80%, so that's one of the key notes to take from this. But what we're also looking at is that convective initiation. I'm about to make my English teacher happy and edit the paper. So 60%, that's what to know. 60% when we're talking about those watches. And what we're also looking at is convective initiation. That is beginning to take place right now, but the key part to our forecast is the fact that we have weak forcing. That weak forcing has limited our potential compared to what folks are getting up north. So that's why there's a heightened tornado threat. That's why there's a heightened wind threat compared to what we have here in North Mississippi. But once that initiation takes place, it will not take long to get those up and going. And that's one of the things that they talked about, that earlier on there was a little bit of initiation that was struggling with it. But once these do get mature enough, once these break the cap, using terminology that we used earlier on this evening, it has an area of 2,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE. What that means, it has a lot of fuel. But it also has enough shear in about 40 knots. It's not, breaking the bank in regards to the shear, but that is still enough to get these tornadoes up and going if they were to break that cap like we've talked about a moment ago. And that's where, if we look right here, large hail, I can't move this. That's something new I just learned. Large hail and tornadoes are still possible within this setup, even though sunset's happening here in the next hour or so. It is still a potential to see some tornadoes and large hail. So that's what I want you to take from this. We've broken the cap on a few of these storms. That convective initiation has already taken place. But as we look in that environment, we're 2,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE, we're 40 knots of shear. I know it's a lot of terminology that makes no sense, but basically meaning a lot of fuel and enough of the turning of the winds to allow these storms to start to rotate that could produce large hail and tornadoes. Already getting some reports of that hail. Look to me about pea-sized to dime-sized in diameter, so not necessarily up to severe standards, but hail falling shows definitely some maturity within these setups. And that's one of the things that talked about earlier on as well, that whenever we were getting that initiation before, they just got up to the cap and then fizzled out. So it wasn't exactly producing much in regards to our weather here in North Mississippi. But what we're watching for next is potentially that watch to happen, but we're also watching for any of those potential rotating storms to start to look a little bit more interesting, Matt. And I know that's what you're watching there behind the scenes on one of the Storm Chaser streams. And of course, all eyes on Northwest Mississippi.
Absolutely. That's where we find Sam with Tennessee Valley Weather, one of our partners here on Mississippi Live. Sam is north of Holly Springs. As you know, going down any kind of back road here in North Mississippi, that video is going to come in and out and in and out a little bit, depending on a Wi-Fi service. He's trying to get, I think, in position and try to get in place for the same storms that we have Caleb on. We expect the northwest part of Mississippi is where we're most likely to probably have some issues with the potential for severe weather and tornadoes tonight. And that's if we're going to see strong tornadoes location, it's most likely. Our meteorologist Caleb Edelblut there. Looks like his feed is also in and out as we're both in Marshall County area, generally speaking. I hear some audio there. Caleb, where you at?
There we go. We're now tracking south, heading to my feed will start through breaks in Senatobia. My audio is
so I'm not getting a whole lot. Okay,
Yeah.
so if you can, give me the Reader's Digest version of that, because that just, most of that cut out.
Okay, well, if I'm back, we're traveling south towards Byhalia, still riding that highway between Holly Springs and Senatobia, so kind of going that more southern direction to try to intercept that cell.
Okay, so are you on 269 or are you on a back road? Or not a back road, but
Yes,
like
we're on
a
269.
state highway? 269.
We're on
Okay.
269.
Okay, perfect. So we'll have you both coming at it from either side. Visually speaking, do you have too much cloud debris between you and it to have a good shot at the actual storm itself, or you got a good look at it?
Well, we got a good look on it right before we turned on it. We could kind of see that low precip and starting to see some of the cloud base off in the distance. Only issue is now we're starting to deal with the trees, but definitely got a quick glimpse of it before we turned on. So hoping we can get another opening to give you that visual coming up soon.
Okay, I appreciate that. That's our meteorologist Caleb Edelblut there on his way southbound there on 269. Kind of have both Sam and Caleb converging toward that one section of I-22 and eventually, generally speaking, heading back toward that severe storm. Not severe storm, but storm that is the strongest thunderstorm there that we've been tracking. Okay, appreciate that, Caleb. We'll talk to you again here in a minute. Back here on Mama Justice Doppler radar. This is the storm we're watching, a supercell rotating storm that's getting a little stronger. if Maggie is watching, I wouldn't mind hearing from her perspective there. She's going to have a good visual. I say that
based off the distance. Only issue is now we're starting to deal with the trees, but definitely got a quick glimpse of it before we turned on, so hopefully we can get another opening to give you that visual.
That we've been tracking.
Or you also might, Gabe, do one of those snap and push things for the weather, both converging toward a spot that we already have somebody at this point, and that's our meteorologist Maggie McCauley. She is there in the Senatobia area, getting kind of a shot of the storm there as we look south, generally south from her location. Now that's storm number 1, isn't it? Right, Maggie?
Hey, yeah, Matt, this is storm number 1. So this is the one that's ahead of the one that SPS was kind of issued for bringing that hail potential. So can you hear that? It's now on my doorstep. Let me step back into the tree a little bit. So you might be able to hear that heavy rainfall. That number 1 storm just hit us here in Senatobia. I am on the more northern half of Senatobia near Coldwater than the Como side. So that's kind of where I'm positioned, where we live in this neighborhood. So again, on the more northern side of Senatobia near Coldwater, now seeing storm number 1. And then that secondary storm is the one we're watching for that's supposed to be bringing more of that hail threat. This one just looking like some heavy rain out here that just hit our doorstep. So we're watching it. Some dark clouds in the distance. Don't have a lot of clear shot for you, a lot like Caleb where he was. A lot of trees here in North Mississippi, right? Not making for a clear shot off in the distance, but we're definitely keeping our eye on it. Right now, just heavy rainfall. Here's some lightning off in the distance, but really just now hitting Senatobia, like within kind of city limits area of Senatobia. Again, that's storm number 1. Keeping our eye out for storm number 2. But this is a live shot at it. A lot of rain off in the distance, some heavy rain and some thunder. That's all we got for now. But again, we're waiting in that coming next few minutes for that storm that could be producing some hail. So that's what it looks like right now over here in Tate County, Matt.
Okay, go ahead and head inside for a minute, and then I'll use your eyes as soon as this one passes, because I mean, again, on radar, it doesn't look ridiculous, but it does look like an LP, and those almost always require a spotter to have some kind of good viewpoint on it. And I appreciate you for being willing to do that. So head inside for a few minutes. We'll talk to you. Okay, I'm meteorologist Maggie McCauley up there in the Senatobia area. As we bring it back in here, we're looking, she's on this storm. She's kind of on the north side there of Senatobia. That's the heavy rainfall in the initial storm. That storm's rotating as well. This is the one we're a little more concerned with. And I'm going to clear off our track because it has not made a full right turn yet. And you might say, what is this? Aren't we supposed to be seeing the big hook on the backside? That is what we call either a classic or an HP, high precipitation supercell. This is what we call a low precipitation supercell, has less rainfall, and thus typically the only time you start to really see the hook echo is when it's about to produce a tornado. And so that is kind of the setup that we're at here, is we're going to have to monitor that with cameras, with people in the field. That's why, of course, we're talking back and forth when we get to talk to Caleb. That's why we're checking out these cameras. And that's why we're talking to the storm chasers as well. I'm going to see if Sam has his shot back up here as well. Let me bring this back up for a moment. So this is Sam with Tennessee Valley Weather. As he is kind of heading down toward this, he is in the Holly Springs area, heading down southward into this. You can see lightning on that storm. as he's generally heading that way and passing the Holly Market in downtown Holly Springs. So he will be in position within the next few minutes. And appreciate our good partners up there at Tennessee Valley Weather, part of the digital weather network here of independent meteorologists around the country. And certainly it is an evening where we're all kind of working together trying to share resources on that. So as you can see, he's turning right toward Highway 7 there toward the Oxford area as he's snaking his way down toward that, what you see on the horizon. That is that thunderstorm there that has the rotation that's over top of Maggie, and that is continuing to go through a strengthening phase still at this point here. Back on Mama Justice Doppler radar, I'm going to double check again the wind mode on this. There's not going to be a ton of rotation showing up from this perspective here. And Gabe, I'm just curious to see if we've had any pictures come in at this point or anything like that. I'm going to let you take a look at that here for a moment as you're kind of assessing what you've been seeing for power outages and other things across North Mississippi as well.
I did it again. Sorry, I had the stream up in the background.
And I promise you, it's there's only one room you have to visit. You have to turn off the microphone. The rest of the time, you're going to be okay.
Well, I was worried that whenever it was a 2-box that my mic was on in the background, so my apologies there. But yes, basically what I'm doing is working to confirm any form or fashion of a severe storm over there in northwest Mississippi. And as of right now, power outages, the only outages that we're seeing is up there towards Benton County as they are going to be dealing with, actually it might have already been cleared, so look at that, crew's already out and about, but that was a planned outage, so not one that we need to worry about storm-wise here in North Mississippi. So as we look at the overall coverage, not seeing anything stand out. It again is Benton County, but that will soon be adjusted, and from there not seeing a ton of outages. Now, one thing that we have not seen so far are pictures, and I want to say pictures don't always have to be severe weather reports. They can be pictures of the storm itself, they can be pictures of the clouds, pictures of the rainfall, whatever you have a visual on over there, especially in northwest Mississippi. But at any point during the night where those storms move through North Mississippi, send those pictures in right to us here at Mississippi Live Weather, and we will work to forward that to the National Weather Service. In fact, we have a partnership with National Weather Service in Memphis where they are able to see your pictures directly as they're submitted to us here at Mississippi Live Weather. So cool partnership that you get to be a part of, and your reports could be the reason a warning gets issued, could be the reason that someone's life potentially gets saved. So that's why they matter so much in this circumstance. And so far, being that we don't have pictures, that's a welcome sight, because that does mean that there's nothing to confirm damage there at the surface, any hail falling right now. We have gotten that one video that Matt showed a moment ago from the North Mississippi Storm Chasers of some hail falling there in the northwest Mississippi area. But that's really it so far right now. And even that hail looked to be about a pea to dime size in diameter. So it's not anything overly concerning right now, but this storm continues to intensify. And as it moves into, again, a favorable environment, that's where we're keeping eyes on that. So as we look right here at the surface observation, actually, I forgot that was on the screen behind me right here. Surface observations there where these storms are working their way through are in the mid to upper 60s, and that's why those are still able to be maintained. I mean, you can see the radar imagery right there. We're between 66 and 69 degrees for those dew points, and that's enough fuel. It's not the 70s that it had earlier on, but enough to continue to strengthen that as it moves through Tate, Panola, eventually DeSoto and Marshall County. So keeping eyes on that with team efforts there in the Holly Springs area, as well as keeping eyes on it through the North Mississippi Storm Chaser cameras and here on our radar analysis. So as we get more of those showers and storms to develop, it will continue to enter that favorable environment through the next hour or so. So that's what they were talking about with the mesoscale discussion, is that convective initiation. The more we have of that, the more opportunity that these storms have to take advantage of a very unstable environment to potentially produce a strong storm later on. So is the storm going more east or more northeast? Based off of the latest tracks, it does look to be moving northeast over the last few radar scans. That doesn't mean it's impossible to make a turn towards the east, but overall we should continue to see that towards the northeast as well. Seeing some roads up there, yeah, just up there towards northwest Mississippi. Sometimes it can be a struggle bus to find some data, find some service to get those shots out. So that's why they could be a bit spotty, but once they get situated where they need to be, we'll be able to get a consistent live shot out here in a moment. But touching base with Caleb and the crew as they continue to navigate northwest Mississippi. in Ripley right now. Nothing here, but we'll be keeping eyes open. I appreciate that. That is Justin sending us that report there out of the Tippah County area. Right along Highway 4, right along actually Highway 72 is where I would expect that area to be for these storms to move on through. Again, they are initiating northwest Mississippi and extending up there towards the state line. So that's why Highway 72 from Corinth all the way towards the northern part of Marshall County is where we expect those storms to really be firing up and really maintain that intensity. So the latest scans right over Senatobia as we speak. More of those cells initiating right along the Mississippi River. This is the area where we'd expect that convective initiation to occur and getting more of those to form. This one right here towards Cleveland, one that I was trying to get a visual on just a moment ago, maybe getting a better look out of Clarksdale as that's continuing to move on through. Let me actually go to the latest scan on that one, and I want to zoom in a little bit closer and see those trends, because this one might be one that's starting to intensify as well. So putting it on that 30-minute loop, you can see how it went from yellows to the oranges to the reds, and it seems like it is recycling and now getting some of those brighter DBZs indicating what may be the start of a hail core. Let's go ahead and we'll go out of Memphis and let's go ahead and get that hail track brought to you there by True Shield Roofing. Not getting that just yet, but it would not be impossible. And we see that with our peak threats starting to show what is at least a hint at some of that large hail forming aloft. As of right now, not reaching the surface just yet, but this is the latest scan towards Minot, Tutwiler, Balzer community. Let's zoom it out. Matt, if you want to put your mic on there in the background, what speed did you have these at? Was it, I believe, 35 miles an hour, and it seemed to be continuing with that. If you have any objections, then feel free to jump in. But as we track out that core, and we're going to go 35 miles an hour.
35. I think 35 is good.
Perfect. So we'll keep that northeast track. Tutwiler there by 729. And moving right there towards Highway 3, right along Highway 3, I should say, there through Tutwiler and eventually through the rest of Tallahatchie County up there towards Panola County here in a moment. So paying attention there, that's one of the storms, but let's go ahead and jump back up to the one towards the north that has been catching our attention for the last few moments. Still getting a decent amount of lightning out of it, about 43 strikes in total with this cluster. And as that continues to move up there towards Como, Senatobia, right along Highway 4 to Holly Springs, Matt, keeping eyes on that as it does still have a decent echo top and a decent output of lightning as well.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm going to switch over to the wall. I'm working on chaser stuff behind the scenes.
Okay.
So yeah.
Perfect.
So we're going to save over to the weather wall over there. And he'll continue on.
So continuing to look at those echo tops like we talked about just a moment ago, you're looking at the color should correspond to our scale there at the top to give you a generalized idea of what is taking place. And you can see those darker browns that are showing up. That's going to be the northwest area of Panola County, and then now moving into Tate County as well. Those dark browns actually indicate about 45,000 feet on that latest scan. And I'm going to try to get this up here behind the scenes. So bear with me for one moment, but that's where we were looking at for those storm tops to break the cap.
Caleb, how do you spell your last name again?
Edelblute. Yeah.
don't want to say it. Okay.
Say it.
But continue to say it. 'Cause I
I
want to
just-
hear it.
Every time I see stuff like that, I cringe, and I just can't.
I just can't.
All right.
It's tough.
But like, you do you. I mean, maybe it's a me thing. Maybe it's just because I can't bring myself to like.
Because if I was a potential suitor and I saw that, I'd cringe.
Exactly.
It's
Okay,
like
perfect.
it was like a high school thing.
Yeah. That's like something you do when you first get Snapchat because
Yeah.
you think it's really cool,
Yeah.
and then you like grow up and realize that's like the most
Cringiest thing you could ever do.
exactly.
What
But he
did I
still
miss?
does it. I'm like, Sam, please stop. Oh. Wait. This is in close to Saris in Senatobia.
Uh-oh. There we go.
Bro.
Oh. All right.
I don't know. I'm holding what we got for just a minute.
Wait, are we streaming right now?
Yes.
Okay. Let me chill.
Lock in.
Yeah, I'm gonna try my best. No
I know.
promises. Oh, wait. There's a stick on it.
Oh, is that a
Stick.
stick? Yeah.
You would ask that question.
That's a stick. Samson. I'll look at
That's not peachy.
What's the ETA on the stream?
5 minutes ish. Just putting in names and then we'll be ready to go.
Why didn't you do that last night?
Because I was very busy.
Thank you, Pascal.
I didn't get back to Starkville till like 8 p.m.
Surely you had 10 minutes.
Maybe. I was just exhausted. Because in the course
Oh,
of
my uncle
that,
said
I
they got
made
green clouds
2
now.
trips to Huntsville and back.
I got hail.
Did a crawfish boil, went to a baseball game, and worked 5 hours doing parking for Panoply in the span of 48 hours.
That's fair. It's just a lot better than doing it now, though.
So I'm pretty much done.
Yeah, just take a photo.
You're out just take your time.
There's so much going on.
That's good. Check, 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 check. Audio properties. We're finally getting good.
Yep. Alright, St. Louis is right.
Cool.
And so, yeah, we're about to get hit.
Modify.
So it's about to, we're pretty much
Thank you,
going over.
Jason.
Hey, he's asking a question.
Sorry to bother you guys. I know you're busy.
Yeah,
You
no
getting
problem.
serious?
Uh,
So you guys out here, it ain't a good sign.
I wouldn't say it's too serious yet. There's some storms to our south right now that we're kind of babysitting.
Cool.
They're not too impressive right now. Maybe some small hail with it.
Appreciate you. I got that shop up the hill. That's my shop. If y'all need a
Okay.
vantage point, it's a little bit higher than right here.
Okay,
You're
no
welcome to the
problem.
whole property, whatever you need to do, if that gets you a better angle. So
Yeah, I appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
We're,
What
we're
y'all do
probably
about
about to
informing
we're probably
everybody.
about to head south, but thank you for the
thank you
offer.
very
It
much,
means a
guys.
lot.
Y'all have a good one, man. Be safe out
You
there.
Yes,
too.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Can you give me some rings?
Oh, legend. Yeah.
A little bit of a higher likelihood now that it
on Mama Justice Doppler radar, we've had very few storms, much less very few strong to severe thunderstorms. The good news is that we have what's called a capping inversion that has largely held to this point and kept storms from becoming strong to severe. We have a few storms that have strengthened, and from time to time, they have produced stuff like this. This is the picture from our meteorologist Maggie McCauley sent in a minute ago there from the Senatobia area of what is maybe dime-sized hail. It's hard to figure out when you don't have a coin right next to it there, but I appreciate Jamie for sharing that picture with Maggie as the storm, I believe that's probably storm number 1 that moved through there just a little bit ago. So this is about as big as things have gotten, but that's not why you're watching. You're probably watching, and I'm not wanting to make assumptions here, but you're probably watching because of the tornado threat. As we've talked about a number of times today, that the tornado threat, there is one, but it is a low confidence, potentially high impact threat, right? Low confidence in that when we look at the likelihood of it occurring, certainly much more likely in the northwest portion of the state, and it'd be very, very difficult to get tornadoes down here in Amory or back closer to Grenada. But when we look at the potential, there's still a potential you could have a strong tornado if we can get one of these storms to get going. And to this point, that has been a struggle, thankfully, of the overall the atmosphere. Gabe Maynard, again, have been storms that are on the wall. You know, one of the things that he has been doing while he's been tracking these, again, trying to break down what the storms are capable of. And thankfully, Gabe, to this point here, there's a lot of ifs and maybes and not a lot of actual production.
Big time. And reports have been there, but they've not been exceptional. And that's a good thing with this setup. So getting the dime-sized hail a moment ago, again, some give and take on that report, but that's the highest it's been so far. And that's just because the cap has been our friend in the grand scheme of things, and that has limited that potential throughout the afternoon of what this could be. I mean, we saw models even this afternoon, and fortunate that the cap did hold and didn't break, because this could have been a much worse situation. But as we continue into the afternoon, one of the big things that I've been looking at behind the scenes have been those dew points. And where these storms have initiated is right along this purple, and the purple is represented by those 70-degree dew points, and that is more than enough to get these up and going. I mean, look there towards Senatobia, 72, we're 71 in Grenada, 75 in Cleveland. Same thing there towards Clarksdale, Greenwood coming in about 73 as well. Now, as these continue to move up there towards the north and east, I mean, we're moving through Tate County, and there's still a good bit of unstable air right there. But as it gets closer to Marshall County, those numbers start coming down towards Benton and Tippah County, right around that same margin, even there towards Corinth. So overall, there's enough to keep these going. But as night does set in, these numbers will start to drop a bit more, and that lowers that potential, fortunately, because we definitely don't want to have severe weather if there was a choice, right? So as it moves through Senatobia right now, I'm curious to see what other reports we do get out of this setup, because some of that hail potential does still lie within that storm. So as we look at the hail swath, that was where we got some of those reports from earlier on as that storm did move on through. But fortunate that those reports have been pretty minimal so far, which we actually do need to get that report sent over to the National Weather Service to let them know that of what it did produce a moment ago towards Tate County. But now as it crosses into Highway 4, it doesn't show as impressive of a return. Let's do it on that 30-minute loop. And earlier on looked way more impressive, starting to get some of that shear to take over as well, allowing some of that turning to take place. But, you know, that did come down as well. So as we look at those echo tops, continue to be impressive. Yeah, they're still there. They're still enough. It's maintained itself. Earlier on, let me actually go to that one scan that we just saw a moment ago. Right there. Right there. And I know I'm blocking it. Right there where those reds show up. That's 50,000 feet, and that's where the storm really intensified, and that's where it started to develop some of that smaller hail aloft. And as I was telling kids on school visits, you know, it has to take the journey up through the cloud tops before it's able to be spit out by the storm here on the surface. So that's where it was starting its journey and eventually did fall out closer to Tate County. But that was where we did have that begin to happen. That was earlier on at the 6 o'clock hour. Now as we move into the 7:30 hour, we still have about 45,000 feet, but that's the difference that 50,000 and 45,000 feet can make, the difference between 10 miles and 9 miles. So that's what we're looking at as it continues to trend that way up there towards the north and east. As we just saw with dew points, this is still a favorable environment. So once it gets closer to Highway 4 east of Senatobia is where we expect the bulk of that, the heaviest portions of that storm to be. That's going to be moving through eastern parts of Tate County. And let's just go ahead and actually do a storm track to encompass that as well. So I'm going to go on the overall cover we have there. And we're going to do this entire band as it moves up there towards the north and east. And this is an updated look, and I'm going to go in the heaviest portions on this. So you might get some of those sprinkles out ahead of this, but this is where we'd expect, if we're getting any impacts, for it to be within this part right here. So 35 miles an hour. We're seeing Coldwater there at 736, Glenville 737, Bar about 738, Aiken 741, the Polkville 741, Bowman 744, Independence 746, Lurline 748, the Chulahoma area 752, and 757 Cockram. Now I know what you're saying. What are we tracking with this? Well, we're tracking a thunderstorm that has enough potential to become strong, to potentially severe, but a ways away from becoming tornadic as of right now, but still not impossible as it moves up towards the north and east. And that's what I wanted to give a heads up for as this does approach Holly Springs. In fact, I don't believe I included Holly Springs in that track. I actually want to draw another one because I want to make sure that we at least include folks in there that may see that. So as I adjust things behind the scenes and make sure that we can kind of limit that. There we go. Holly Springs about 816. So that's here in the next 40 minutes or so. And even towards Holly Springs, we were tracking 68, 69 degree dew points. And again, that is enough as it crosses I-22 here in the next half hour to 45 minutes or so. So looking at the overall setup, what do we have? Well, we have enough of those storms. I want to keep an eye on this Tutwiler one just in case, but we have these storms that already have initiated, and as these move through northwest Mississippi, they're in a favorable environment. Matt, as we talked about, 2,000 joules per kilogram of energy. That's enough energy to get these up and going. The cap, that's been the story tonight.
It has been, trying to, which is what we want to see, because that's one of the things that has limited it, and hopefully a limit that will continue. Appreciate that, Gabe. We'll try to see if we can get Caleb up here in a minute. We do have Sam with the Tennessee Valley Weather, the team up there. He has been out on these and chasing these as well this evening and encroaching on that storm in Senatobia. Again, some of the rainfall leading into that as he has left Holly Springs and is on his way towards Senatobia. At this point, again, heavy rainfall, some hail, as you saw a little bit ago. Those have been the main impacts. I'm also watching our feeds from the North Mississippi Storm Chasers as they're out and about as well. For the most part, not seeing a whole lot of major significance at this point here. Every minute we cross into this evening is a minute where things are getting a little bit better for us. I see that Gabe has a picture there behind the scenes. I'm going to go ahead and send it over to our meteorologist, Gabe Maynard. Gabe?
Yeah, so James there in Senatobia submitting this picture. And one of the things that we look for right here is more of that rigid outline on these storms rather than a fuzzy outline. Fuzzy basically means the storm's starting to collapse in on itself, but when it's rigid, that means there's still enough of those updrafts to keep a pretty decent structure on those storms. And this is the one moving through Senatobia. This would have been about, what is going on? Oh, the timer's done. So we need to check with Maggie, Matt. But one of the things that I was looking at with this is if it has that rigid structure, and it looks like it does, so it does look like this is still a maturing storm. Doesn't look like it's collapsing in on itself just yet. So as that moves through Tate County, this helps give us a visual, and that was James out there in Senatobia. So one of the things that I told you guys, your pictures help us tell the story, and even a picture of a few clouds up there in the sky can at least give us a visual of what these storms are capable of and how they have gone through their life cycle over the last few moments. So we're getting a good look at that right now as it moves through the Senatobia area. But as we work to get a visual on that, or at least a report from our meteorologist, Maggie McCauley, that's where we'll get even more confirmation on what this storm was capable of moving through the area. Now, I am in touch with Caleb behind the scenes as well. And it does look like we'll be able to get his shot up here in just a moment. So two of our meteorologists here at Mississippi Live Weather out in the field tonight, helping us get an understanding of what's going on in the environment. I do think that Caleb's trying to look behind the scenes. Caleb might not be up yet, but I am awaiting his shot here in just a moment to at least get a visual on that. But yeah, appreciate James for submitting that weather report. As we look out there, we should have enough time that has passed to where we may get a visual, not a visual, but at least an understanding of any power outages. And those do look to be minimal. So that's, again, a very good thing with this setup. And as we look at the surface analysis or surface observations, I want to look at those dew points again, because that is going to be a key to understanding the environment. We have those southerly winds that's building in that moisture here to the North Mississippi area. And we are currently at around that 69-degree range there towards Memphis, 66 Oxford, and we're right in between those two. So it's shown us that 66, 67 degrees haven't really been enough to get these up and going, but where it's 70 degrees, not only is it initiating those, but it's also allowing a strengthening process to take place, hence what we saw earlier towards the Clarksdale area. And now as we make our way to, oh, there's a visual right there. I see some blue skies, some break.
Hey, Caleb.
There we go. I'm sorry. There was music playing really loud here, so I was trying to get my shot ready behind the scenes. But we're in Byhalia right now, looking south. That way you can kind of start to see some of the clouds breaking just a little bit with some of those higher tops, but still nothing too impressive right now. But that's looking south towards some of those storms kind of making their way closer.
Okay, so you're looking directly south out of Byhalia?
Yes.
Okay. If you don't mind, I'm going to keep your shot up here for a second.
Okay.
And let's see here.
I can bring Adrian in as well.
Yeah, we might do that here in a moment. I'm looking at some pictures here behind the scenes, so trying to kind of track a bunch of different things all at once with the storm chasers and everything. I want to pull up the radar. I want to look at this. You're in Byhalia looking. So are you seeing through to the southern storm, or is that this little top in between? Because if you're in Byhalia, can you see, like, are you seeing all the way to that one? Are you looking directly south?
We're looking directly south. That's exactly what we're looking at, directly south. I can kind of get the full visual for you so you can try to see kind of what I'm looking at. And I mean, you can definitely tell the base is a lot more apparent the further we go. I don't think that top is the one furthest. I think that's kind of just that little blip we have coming up here. So it looks like we're just kind of seeing through that first storm right now.
Okay. That makes sense. So what are y'all's plans? Where you go from where you're at now?
What are you thinking, Adrian?
Well, we're sitting here right now just kind of seeing how these cells evolve. They seem to be struggling to at least extend to the low levels as of right now. We're questioning long term if they're going to be able to sustain themselves, at least in the low levels. I do think at minimum we have a significant hail risk here with these elevated storms as they continue to go east. But for now, the tornado risk seems to be in question. We're just kind of hanging out, see how they evolve by our quicker road options. So if we need to go east and go back south, we certainly can. And if we decide that these storms are not going to end up going, if we're fairly confident in that, we might blast a little further west to get in front of the later storms tonight.
Yeah, I mean, So I have asserted to this point, it feels a lot like an LP or classic setup. From your perspective, would you agree?
I would absolutely agree. We don't have a view of the base per se from here, but just as far as the structure, you could tell there's a lot of dry air aloft and even at the surface. So certainly seems to be an LP boat on the tape, at least from what we're seeing.
Okay. Let me ask this question. I can think of, in my 15 years here, maybe twice that an LP ended up dropping a tornado. Like, there was one in Columbus, south of Columbus, New Hope, and I don't remember the year. But it was a brief tornado. I want to say it had to be, 2017, 2018, somewhere in that range. I can't think of another LP dropping a tornado in Mississippi since I've been here. Is there? I mean, it
absolutely.
happens
It's
other
very
places.
rare.
I'm not saying it can't happen, but I'm just saying I can't really think of many times it's happened.
It seems we're having sort of an Oklahoma scenario right now where we have a cat bust ongoing and we're really dry. I mean, we're very ahead of the more favorable low level moisture and we're very dry near the surface. Open warm sectors like this, in my opinion, usually don't end up being where you want to be.
Yeah, thankfully, it's one of those scenarios. Typically, when hold on a second here, SPC. What time is that? 42, 2 minutes ago. I'll read this along. SPC just spoke with them over watch over North Mississippi. Even though the storms are not impressive by anybody, giving the wait and see mode regarding new watch at this time. Update when they get more information. So even SPC is like, I mean, it's possible. And listen, on radar here, I'm going to bring it back to the 2 box where you can see it on radar here for a moment. And I don't know if you can see, you should be able to see it on the screen. I mean, it has, and I don't know if we're going to try to develop an RFD back here like this, but it's not as narrow. Like, sometimes they have those pencil thin LPs. And it is moving. If you look at the centroid middle of this, it's moving a little more east now. So I think there's going to be an opportunity for you to kind of get a look behind it once this kind of lead cell that's closest to you is out of the way.
Right. It certainly needs to strengthen and gain some mass. I think, the one thing to look out for in the next hour or two is if it can start getting some inbounds on the velocity to show that we're at least pulling something lower in the scan from the surface. If we can start seeing that, then I think we can put tornadoes back on the table. But at least in the near term, at least, 15, 20 minutes, I don't see tornadoes being on the table at this moment in history.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I think we're beyond probably 15, 20 minutes. We need to see some kind of RFD that you would also see out there as well, something trying to wrap around it. I mean, it's clearly, it's interesting. We're not going to stop watching it, but anytime we see a change in direction a little bit, always get interested. But I mean, it's just not a lot of moisture. You get east of this little tongue there. I can't imagine once you get past Hickory Flat that there's anywhere near enough moisture to pull it off.
Yeah, absolutely not. And the warm sector is very slow. This isn't really one of those setups that we usually have in the early season where you get those strong cold fronts that come in and translate that moisture east fast. The upper ingredients right now just kind of have it stationary a little bit. It tries to get a little east, but eventually the cold front's going to stall and set us up for tomorrow. So I'm not sure how much further east we're going to be able to get with this moisture.
Yeah, hopefully not. Well, now hold on a second here. Let me give you this shot. So this is what Sam with the Tennessee Valley weather. That's his viewpoint on this. Gabe, we need a camera. We need Batesville North, and we need Oxford West as well. That's a shot. Wouldn't you agree?
That is certainly a wall cloud trying to develop. You can see the sculpted mesocyclone above it. That's very low precipitation. You can see the striations up there. That's usually very indicative of dry air. It's trying real hard to pull something down to the surface.
Man,
or at least surface
there you
based.
Go.
Yeah, that's very pretty. That's just to the south of the storm that we're on right now.
I think that's the storm you're on right now. He was coming through Holly Springs and then went west when he came around. So he came around the south and east side of it. So, and you can see how the wall cloud, you might have an RFD or something undercutting it because the wall cloud's starting to break up a little bit. Anyway, so that's what they have there. So that's what he mentioned with the striations. That's this part here. So, are y'all thinking of moving? What are you thinking of doing?
We're going to take a look. We've had some people coming up trying to make sure that everybody's staying safe and weather aware, stay in the van out there in the field. So, we're thinking about trying to go to the south. So if we can get a shot at that. Yeah. We're going to work on that and see if we can get another shot.
We're going to drop south between Senatobia and Holly Springs
On
Highway 4.
Yeah, we're gonna go down
Okay.
Highway 4, go between Senatobia and Holly Springs.
Okay, I appreciate that. That's our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, and Adrian with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers there. We'll talk to y'all here in a little bit. This is a live picture here from Sam with the Tennessee Valley weather of that storm there that's now east of Senatobia. Gabe, I see behind the scenes that you're kind of looking at some of the cameras there, seeing what kind of viewpoints we have. Can we touch base with Maggie? I'd like to talk with her if we could. She should be safe on the west side of this, might have a visual on this as well. And pull that down because that's the thing. This storm. So I would say he's along Highway 4 there. Is where he is. So he's along Highway 4, kind of looking right. He's probably. It'd be interesting. I'm not sure if he's exactly where he's at in this area there. I'm gonna have to see if I can pull it up on Spotter Network. Gabe, I'm gonna bring you in here for a second to look at a couple of these cameras, if you would. You can either look them this way. You could take radar. Go ahead and take radar so you can pull them up that official way. Sound good?
Yeah. So I've actually been able to maneuver the cameras from Batesville and Oxford to get a visual on this storm. So we actually have two different angles that we can see, along with the storm chaser cameras as well. So full team effort to kind of surround this cell. We're looking, this would be towards the northeast slightly to get a visual. And unfortunately, it looks like there's just a lot of cloud cover that's blocking that view from getting a good view on this. But at least the storm should be right here, situated there towards the northeast on that setup. So let's go out of Oxford and see if we can get a visual on this. And there you're getting a better view of that moving on through. So this would be where the heavy precipitation is there to the, would be looking northwest. So that'd be more on the direct northwest side with that low base extending off of it there towards the directly west view as well. Dew points here in Oxford, 66 degrees. That's the environment that it's moving into, but you do see that break there in the cloud cover that can help warm up that environment and make it a little bit more conducive for some of those storms as well. Now, paying attention to that camera, I want to see if that can be maneuvered at all to anywhere closer. So behind the scenes, that's what I'll be working on. And looks like the live stream is up. This is still Sam's shot. Looks like they're maneuvering around, trying to get a better view on this. And he's along Highway 4, did you say?
Yes, he says he's just outside Senatobia.
Okay, so just outside of Senatobia, making his way, I would assume, back towards Highway 4.
Heading back toward Holly Springs, I'd imagine. Probably trying to he'll go back. Typically it's moving slow enough here that he'll go back, reorient, get a better picture, and then he'll hit it a few times like that. I'm imagining. Okay. And it does look like Josh Kern with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers has his camera's in vertical mode as opposed to it's got a rotation lock on it. But I got a similar shot from him, and then Timothy. His brother, I think, is with Caleb. We'll see if this is gonna keep going here. So here's the shot from Caleb. I think I'll have to bring it back to me to show it up here. So this is Caleb and Timothy and Adrian with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers there they're in Byhalia. Kind of working their way. They're just past I-22, heading toward that storm.
Yeah, comma, he pulled in right behind me, period. That's my car.
So y'all were inside while this came over. Did you guys see any? Well, what have y'all seen? What are you camera with the. There we are. There's Maggie. Okay, so we're looking at backside.
Hey,
This
sorry.
thing. Were you able to see this wall cloud? I'm getting some great shots of the wall cloud that we had a minute ago on this.
Okay, no, it wasn't. But if I would have gotten my car and just a little while away where there's much of a tree line, like neighborhood's just full of trees, I would have gotten a lot of view of that. So no, I did. I was watching it as it came through, watching the cloud motion on it. No, it was, these storms have a little bit of rotation as they've been moving through Tate County. So we moved everybody inside when it came
Yeah, that's
through our
smart.
neck of the woods here closer to Coldwater.
Hey, yeah, no, I think that's a good choice as well. It's better to be safe as opposed to sorry in that case. So I completely get it.
That's right.
Okay, well, hey, let's go ahead and I know that you've got possibly an early morning tomorrow, so I promise I won't bug you anymore unless we've got something really extreme. Anything else you want to add real quick before we wrap it up?
No, you're good. No, just watching kind of on the back side of things. I'm glad things have remained relatively quiet so far. Still watching that morning round, and I'll be on if anything happens. If not, I'll see you guys at 6:30.
Okay, that's our meteorologist Maggie McCauley there in Senatobia. Appreciate that. And Maggie mentioned a moment ago, she is live every morning starting at 6:30 a.m. That's the regular expected update time. But the reality of the situation is if necessary, if earlier, she'll be on earlier and we'll stop later. But our regularly scheduled broadcast, which we are going to be talking, of course, about tomorrow's severe weather threat, 6:37, 7:30 a.m. here in the Room to Room Weather Center. That's our meteorologist, Maggie McCauley, who we just heard from just a moment ago there. I'm going to bring in Gabe again here back in our downtown Tupelo studios. We've been watching some of these chaser feeds and it's getting darker. We're starting to lose the visibility. Have you been able to find anything on any of the cameras out there?
They did have a good look at the Oxford camera a moment ago, if you're able to pull that up, but we were getting a visual out there in Oxford a moment ago because you're able to get a visual up there towards the Blackwater community because we do have a directly north view. I saw they were controlling it behind the scenes, so I didn't want to interrupt that, but we're getting a good look at the wall cloud, a little bit of that tail cloud as well. So earlier we had a good shot of it. I don't believe we have that same shot. So yeah. It's definitely trying. So we still have a good look right there as that's moving towards the northeast. We have a directly north view, so that would be looking into that part that could have some of that broad rotation to it, but still looks a ways away from producing. But Matt, that definitely is a shot that stands out, and thankful for the camera network that we were able to get these visuals on the ground because, and lots of lightning too, because looking behind the scenes, it's tough to see that on radar at the moment as I've been assessing that here in the Room to Room Weather Center. Now, Batesville, you're going to have a few more of those showers. If I move out of the way, you can see right here with our radar imagery how you have more of those showers moving towards northern Panola County. That interferes with our view just a bit because that is going to be towards the northeast. So you're going to get a lot of that stratus cloud deck right there. That's going to limit just how much of a visual we do have. Trying to spin that around so that way we can see if we have anything. That's another interesting feature coming out of there. This is looking what direction, Matt? Or I assume that's you controlling it behind the scenes.
That is not, but give me a moment. The storm chasers, I think, are controlling that one. We'll have that shot here in just a second. Let's see here. Batesville, we've got that looking up. I think that's kind of that is looking northwest. So that's looking at that same feature that you were looking at from Oxford. So there's your shot from Batesville. And then looking farther away from Oxford, we'll see the shape should match.
Wait, is that northwest or north? So this would be a whole different cell, right?
No, it isn't. These are both looking northwest, I think.
Well, Batesville, that would need to be northeast for that cell.
Okay, hold on. Let me see here. Let's go back. No, that's looking northwest from Batesville. That could be a different cell then. Yeah, you're right. Let me go back to Batesville again.
It'd be the one towards Sardis, right?
Yeah, possibly. I'll let you take over radar and look here for a moment.
Yeah, Batesville.
Batesville. Hold on. No, that'd be Sledge.
That's that one?
No, it's not. It's looking about 330 degrees, assuming that is correct. So it's looking northwest a little bit.
Okay, so that would be the visual on this next one. Again, these do have that broad rotating aspect to it to where you could get a wall cloud feature like what we have there towards Como and as well as what we saw there a moment ago there towards eastern Tate County just outside of Senatobia. So those two storms have an impressive structure, but radar not exactly showing that. Again, your reports do matter, your pictures do matter. And that's why I've been looking here behind the scenes for any of those photos that you guys have submitted. Have gotten a lot of these just out of the North Mississippi area and areas that have not been affected just yet, including out there towards Pontotoc, towards Boonville, just a lot of that stratus cloud layer that's remaining right over the top of North Mississippi. This was an impressive shot earlier. I believe that was towards southern Coahoma County, so that's why it does have a little bit more impressive structure out there. But like I mentioned, a large part of this is just going to be those cloudy skies that are showing that we are in a more stable part of the atmosphere here in North Mississippi. And as I look at where this was from, unfortunately, it does not have a location. I'll look here behind the scenes at where that photo was taken from, but let's get back on our visual and so look out of Crenshaw. This will be looking at, again, some of those storms that don't have as impressive of a return on radar. And this is looking 270, so 270 would be directly to the west. So we're looking at a storm. Let me get out of the way. I'm blocking it mostly. It's close to the camera. You can see on the radar return right up there next to it. So that would be where we're getting at some of that, another impressive base.
So it's looking 120. It's looking 120.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I saw 270 there on the bottom.
On mine, it says it. On mine, at the top, it says 120. I think the one on the bottom, I think, is incorrect.
Okay, sweet. So 120 would be southeast.
Yeah, 105. Yeah, so like kind of east, almost east. So that's probably the one that's south of Senatobia there. God, that's pretty good looking for that. What on
radar does not give that vibe.
LPs, I'm telling you, this is what LPs do. LPs, they just look like garbage on radar, and then you're like, oh wait, that thing's producing a wall cloud. Wait, what? That's the importance of these cameras. You know, if you're like, why do they always talk about the cameras? This is why we talk about the cameras, because you can see the part of that that's interesting, important, and tricky. So,
yeah,
anyway,
very grateful. Very grateful for the North Mississippi Storm Chasers and for their camera network, but also for their hard work there behind the scenes, giving us some of those live shots out in the field. And we'll try to touch base with Caleb here in the next few moments as they work their way back there towards Holly Springs. But that one up there, it looks like it's falling apart a good bit. Let me make sure that what radar site we're looking out of. I would assume Memphis, but let's just triple check that. It was out of Memphis. So let's get it back up there. And it doesn't look as impressive on those returns, but as we just mentioned a moment ago, the radar not going to tell the full story, and we are going to get some of these trying to rotate, potentially forming that wall cloud. And let me go back south for a moment. So this is that same one there towards Tutwiler that moved on through, now moving north and east towards Highway 35 and 322 there, and that's where we're getting a good bit of those lightning strikes as well. That shows, let me go specifically on that cell so we can get that number on this setup. So 34 strikes, whereas about 30 minutes ago that was producing no strikes. So that's a bit of an intensification that has taken place. And as that continues to move up there towards the north and east, potentially giving some interesting looking skies up there as well. So I'm actually going to track this out to make sure folks have a heads up on this one as it moves there towards the north and east. And that would be towards Batesville. We go 35 and make sure we include Batesville. So Batesville there, 830, Cortland 825, Chapeltown 820, and 815 towards Toccoa. That's southern Panola County moving closer to Highway 6 here in the next, let's see, what time are we at? 8:03. So here in the next half hour or so. So clear this off and let's continue to go up the line and let's reassess this one there towards Sardis that had an impressive structure to it with that wall cloud as we move right along I-55. This one not showing as impressive of returns, but I'm just going to stop saying that because radar does not tell the story with this setup. So as that moved through western Panola County, now over Sardis, that's where we're starting to get that move right across Como and McGee, probably getting a good bit of action whenever it comes to those showers. And as we track that heavier batch, I probably will have to expand this out to make sure we get all the way up to 35 miles an hour. But as we go up there closer to the same area of Tate County that we tracked a moment ago, we're seeing Barr 821, Aiken 824, Thyatira 824, I hope I said that correctly, and Wyatt 828. That's for this heaviest portion right there, but all along that leading edge is where we could see some of that rainfall attached to it. But that's the heart of the cell that I would say if we're getting any small hail to develop, which is not impossible. Out of the cells we've seen today, we've seen it twice here in North Mississippi. So potentially getting some of that hail as well. We are going right along Highway 4 and Highway 7, that intersection meeting at Holly Springs, right along I-22 here in the next few moments. And Caleb...
Doesn't look like anything on radar, but it's there. Structure-wise.
These have had impressive structure.
Sam with Tennessee Valley Weather, our partners in the Digital Weather Network, who is in the area monitoring the storms down there. Looks like his feed, yep, he's still got it up there as it's getting dark, and he's parked and just kind of waiting and watching that storm, having to wait for lightning strikes, and there's not a ton of lightning strikes, thankfully. Again, another sign that the storms remain, which is exactly the way that we'd like to see them. Hopefully that'll continue to be the case. But Sam's out there. Let me check the other North Mississippi storm chasers on the live map there. Looks like all of them are. Looks like we only have. We do have one of them again, pretty close to where Sam was, but does look like his feed is in and out at the moment here. So to answer some of your questions, what about Webster County? No tornadoes. Grenada. Hopefully too far south. You're more possible in some. Is Monroe County going to be affected by this too? We're going to have storms later on tonight. Tornadoes? Probably not Monroe County. Same thing. Probably not Morville. Probably not Houston and Hulka. Batesville, obviously, we're watching. You know, Sawdust Creations by Mike says I'm right in the middle of it. The one he's in is heading toward Batesville, so watching that there. Cleveland, for folks out there in Cleveland and in Pope, obviously we're watching for you as well. You're still in the zone, Horn Lake, Water Valley, Charleston, where we're trying to pay attention to this for you. Nikki asking, what does this mean for tomorrow? This means we have not really turned over the atmosphere. This also means the cap was extremely strong today, and that means I need to look at some more data on comparison on how it was depicting the cap before this all started to kind of figure out exactly where we're going from here. What about Corinth and Kossuth? You could still see something as these storms work eastward through the night, but still some time before any of these would get closer to you. We're out here looking closer to Como. Again, where that rotation has picked up just a little bit more. Some of that's the angle versus the radar site. But these two kind of areas where you see the sort of reddish on here, those are our two rotating storms where they are trying to modify the environment, and luckily to this point struggling to effectively do so. So looking at, again, the rainfall mode, they look like practically nothing, but there is some weak rotation in both cases on these low precipitation supercells. I wonder if we have something. LP, nope. Nope, I was hoping for UPER. We do not have, I think, a good option to be able to show like the different types of SEPERE. I don't think we have one in here that shows the different types of supercells and how that all works. I know it exists. I just don't think I have it prepped and ready to go, unfortunately. Let's look from down in Batesville again, northward into this. And with that, I'm going to bring in our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor. Gabe, will have you over at Chroma so that you can kind of run things for a minute here. But these storms, like when we're looking there from Batesville, had a pretty good view just a little bit ago. And now kind of looking at it here, and it's hard to see. It's going to be harder and harder to see over the next little bit because as we head deeper into night, obviously visibility goes down.
And something that Caleb said was there's not a ton of lightning with this. So the lack of lightning also limits our visibility as well. Also limits power outages, so that's a positive. But as we look out of Batesville, you can continue to see an impressive structure out there just in northern Panola County. So for everyone in the chat that's asking, are you okay? Like Matt was mentioning, for the majority of us, yes. But out in northwest Mississippi, that's where we're expecting these storms to continue. Now, heading into tomorrow, I know that's what was it? Nikki asking tornado threat towards the morning time, maybe. Asking about tomorrow. We'll, of course, have those tracks coming up tonight at 9 and 10. But I just want to show you the comparison of what they're dealing with up there towards Missouri and Illinois. And you can see the vast number of severe thunderstorm warnings and tornado warnings that have been issued, including a confirmed tornado there in central Illinois. Now, this is all attached to a front. And one of the big things that their atmosphere has that ours doesn't is a forcing mechanism. That cold front is helping drive things up there towards Missouri and up there towards Illinois, and that whole front is why we're seeing some of that stronger development take place. They have the same atmosphere, if not a little bit more primed than us here in North Mississippi. So having those same ingredients and having a way to lift those storms into the atmosphere has allowed for them to unfortunately deal with a lot more of that severe weather. And looking at those storm spotter reports, you can see that we've not had necessarily a confirmed tornado except for radar confirmed up there, but a lot of those severe thunderstorm warnings producing some of the hail and gusty winds. That all being said, long way around the answer to your question. Tomorrow is where we expect some gusty conditions here in North Mississippi. That's dealing with tomorrow afternoon into the overnight hours. So paying attention to that as we get closer, and potentially, due to it having a lifting mechanism, getting some of those stronger gusts here in North Mississippi and potential for a few of those severe thunderstorm warnings as well. So that's what we're looking at. But over there in Senatobia, I see some folks mentioning there is where we continue to get some of those impressive structures on our cameras, but radar not showing much. In fact, lightning strikes over the last 30 minutes. Let's just look at the entirety of this cluster. And we're seeing 73 total strikes right there at the top left of your screen. Okay, well, let's exclude that one there towards Charleston and just focus on these. And there's only 32, thus limiting just how much energy these do have. But they're still in a pretty prime part of the atmosphere. Looking at those dew points, we're right on the outer boundary of those 70-degree dew points as those do cross into Marshall County, expecting it to be dark, expecting it to look scary, but fortunately, we don't have anything confirmed falling to the ground other than rainfall and some small hail at times. So I guess folks asking if they can go to bed, not just yet, because we are dealing with these storms heading into the overnight hours, because one of the things with us is it's not like up north where they're having a cold front move through that's driving out those rain and storm chances. Here in North Mississippi, we're getting more of the unstable air, more of that convective initiation. The convection is what's driving our pattern. So that keeps those rain chances around even into the overnight hours.
We are waiting for, is there enough heating at just the right spot? And that's not, it's like if you imagine, I'm trying to think of the best way to put this. I know. It's like if you want to make a wave, right? And you move your arm across the top of the water, you're going to make a wave. Now you're waiting for somebody to toss in a ball and see where it makes a splash, right? And you're waiting. Are they going to do it? They're doing this. They might not ever actually accidentally throw that, or if they're my child, they might throw it at the time they didn't mean to throw it. But the point is that you're waiting for that one little splash, except it's, we just need enough heating, we bust through and produce the storm, and we largely haven't had that. And so because moisture is so limited, we get these, smaller sort of rotating storms like what we have here. And that's, from time to time, these can be very, very unimpressive and then just do something weird. That's a rarity for that to happen. They both have a little bit of rotation with them, and that just because they have a little rotation doesn't mean they're going to produce a tornado, but there's a little bit there in those cases. So we'll see. And even that one, I think back to Marks has a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Now it's at the edge of the range, so don't get too excited about how bright it was there. At the edge of the range, sometimes this can be overstated on it. If that were like that consistently, it's one thing. We'd look for it to be the same over and over. And there's some things out there, some obstructions that could get. But is it worth continuing to watch? Absolutely. One thing I'm interested in is I'm interested to see if when we look at the severe threats, if it even catches any of this on LPs. And it has not caught much, so it did have some of the hail on that one towards Senatobia earlier. But that's not shocking that this is not a scenario where those tend to do very well at all. But to kind of answer some of the questions, somebody asking about going to sleep. The answer on going to sleep is extremely simple. If you want to go to sleep, the answer is this: weather call. Because tonight is the night. Now, I think we can probably take strong tornadoes off of the table. I think it would be very difficult at this point here for us to get the atmosphere in a position where it produces strong tornadoes. So in saying that, tornadoes still not impossible, but it's going to take a lot more than what we have seen. So Weather Call allows you to be able to turn this off and move on with your life. And we appreciate the thousands of you that are still watching us across social media and on our app. But the big headline here is I would highly recommend you have Weather Call. It'll call you for tornado warnings, call you back if tornadoes are confirmed, call you for severe thunderstorm warnings, call you for flash flood emergencies. And in all those cases, Gabe, those are scenarios where you could be in rough shape. So it'll call you if you have to deal with it. But Gabe, back to you.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'm looking at here behind the scenes is just really hard to gauge. I will say this is the first LP event that I have had in my life working as a meteorologist here in North Mississippi. So not too long, but you know, I've been here a few years at this point. Nonetheless, one of the things that I'm looking to get a visual on there in Batesville is the fact that you are getting some decent rotation with some decent DBZs. And decent is a key word there. It's not overly impressive because it's an LP type situation. But Luke's Oklahoma right there, just south of Crossroad, if we look at the velocity here, those returns, we do still have that broad rotation like we were looking at just a moment ago. Matt, I'll let you take over. So out there, this would be just east there of Como, and that's what we're trying to get a visual on. And as we've watched this loop, one of the things that we were looking at, we were talking about that southern fringe storm. This one has had it scan to scan, and it's starting to get a little bit more impressive as that RFD tries to wrap around. You're getting a visual right there towards Crossroad as that red tries to at least circulate around. It's looking more impressive, but Matt, this is my first LP.
Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Here's what I'd say on this, is that part of it's the angle from the radar site, right? You're moving, as you move around radially around the radar site, you're going to have what it takes to get radar away from you is a little bit different, right? You can have the same rotation. Now, I do think it's curled around a little better, but it's not tight yet, right? Like this would still be pretty broad rotation for where it's at. So I'm going to go back and forth on this a minute here. You know, and the thing that we sometimes we place things as close by one another on radar, and close is good enough. Every pixel means something. We sometimes just figure out what it means after the fact. And so looking at that there, you can see that is that you know, away from the radar. That's that hook echo away. The issue is we don't have a tight inflow band or inflow channel that's really come in. So it's trying, but it's got a ways to go here. And just before dark, quick edit the wall cloud. And I'm going to get a shot, hopefully, of that wall cloud video that we had a minute ago on that other storm. But yeah, is this trying? Is it maybe rotating around a little bit more? Possibly. But as I'm, you know, checking from a little farther away, you know, part of that's might be a cell split going on. Holy Springs, I don't know if that is as much, not as much as it was. That one's
indicate that as well.
Well, and so you're almost always going to want more. You're going to need, like in an LP that produces a tornado, you're still going to expect to have the majority of your precip returns out here in the forward flank, right? Mm-hmm. It might not be that big. It might be, you know, it might be like that, but you're going to want to have still a pretty good precip on the front end. Like the front end's going to have still a lot of precip. The back end, one that produces, might barely show a hook until it touches down, right? but you're still going to have the majority of your precip in the forward flank. At least in my experience, when I've had equal precip, forward flank, rear flank, we typically have not produced tornadoes in that situation. Now, again, I have not been around since the dawn of time, and weird stuff can happen. I would expect to see the velocities getting a little stronger, or at the very least, a little tighter. And it doesn't always show, I will warn, it doesn't always show up as tight on tower Doppler weather radar. But yeah, give me a second here. I'm going to see if Sam was mentioning his stream, so I'm just going to pull up here real quick.
If you want to take this full screen for a second.
Okay, I'll do that here just a moment. Let's bring it back here to the mobile room-to-room weather center. You're watching Mississippi Live weather as of just before 8:30. We're looking at a live shot here from Sam with Tennessee Valley weather as he is kind of in some of the heavy rainfall from some of the storms, watching and tracking them across North Mississippi. Of course, Tennessee Valley weather is a partner with us here on Mississippi Live, part of the Digital Weather Network. And so this is not a particularly riveting shot, but still kind of watching and trying to track these storms and see what they're capable of. I think one of the big headlines we need to be crystal clear about is that for many of us, this has been, and this hopefully will continue to be, a whole bunch of nothing. I'm going to change it from that one radar site where we're really kind of focused in the northwest part of the state and show you the other radar sites that we typically use, which have a whole bunch of nothing. And we've got all these great cameras. You check here in Mabin, and this is how safely away you are from them. You can see there toward the horizon, kind of leftovers from some storms, but it's completely clear overhead. And that's a pretty common thing, if you're, even down here in Houston, depending on what direction you look, you might show a few things toward the horizon. We're looking a long ways that way, but not really seeing a whole lot there. I mean, back in Tupelo, it's the same story. Because when we look at that measure of moisture, which looks like that reporting station at Tupelo Airport is down, we'll have to check that behind the scenes. We show 64 for that dew point. That's relatively dry air, all things considered. So yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that's largely saved us in the eastern part of the state. And so when, we have folks in Tupelo saying, can I go to sleep? I would say at this point, yes, especially if you have a way, if you have those layers of protection. We always say building your armor. Caledonia, I'd go to sleep if I were you. I don't think there's any problem with that. Same thing in Starkville. The dew point's a little higher in Caledonia at 68. And yes, we will have thunderstorms overnight at some of these spots, like Starkville. At some point later on tonight, we're gonna have probably some thunderstorms. But just make sure you have weather call, code red, the Mississippi Live weather app, which of course will have alerts, but have multiple examples of the different things here, the different alert systems, and you're going to be fine. But yeah, I would say go. I would not be worried about tornadoes there if I were in Starkville, nor would I be if I were, say, in Winona at this point. I think we're probably okay and fine there. Same thing, Kosciuszko. Though there's a lot of fuel still around, 70 for that dew point there. A little higher than some other spots, 70 for the dew point there in Kosciuszko. And I'll bet we're going to be probably pretty close to that again up there in Ackerman as well. 72 for that dew point. So there's still a decent amount of fuel laying around ready for storms if we can get them to initiate. We just have thankfully not gotten them to initiate and largely missed out on this first round. So I would say for all the folks that you're seeing here, I would feel comfortable going to sleep. But know this, if you're out here in Greenville, and I kind of put you last on this list for a reason, I do anticipate that we will have additional thunderstorms eventually move in later on tonight. It'll probably take some time before that happens. And there's clearly nothing out there in Arkansas associated with this. So it's going to take some time. But yeah, I when we kind of focus out here and look back into southern Arkansas, no storms. But at some point tonight, while it's not a high confidence scenario, and we talked about that all day long, how this was not high confidence. Eventually, there will probably be some storms popping up there. We have them back into Texas. And whether these are the ones to kick out some rain-cooled air and then it just kind of expands from there, I'd say you're in good shape. Grenada wanting to know if Grenada's clear. I would be fine. Again, if you have weather call, you have multiple ways to find out if you're in the danger zone. I would say that you're probably okay in most cases there. So that's kind of my impression on the situation. Fulton, I would say the same thing, and Amory, I'd say the same thing. So for a lot of us, Gabe, it is kind of at that sort of wind down time. But for a few of us in Northwest Mississippi, we're still watching this, and weirder things have happened than for this to ratchet up and try to produce tornadoes. These do look more intense when you look farther away, and I think that's kind of an important note. When you look farther away, that storm near Abbeville and Como looks a lot more interesting than it did when you're right up on it from the weather radar and at the airport. And that's not uncommon that that's the case because when you're right up on it, you're especially on LP, it's low precipitation. You're not hitting a lot of precip, right?
Yeah, and one thing to also note is parts of Greenwood have come down to 69-degree dew points, so potentially some of those dew points lowering, and that's going to limit that potential as well. But with that being said, and for what it's worth, models at least showing that some of these can intensify as they move closer to the Tennessee state line, going to be right on the cusp of that towards Northwest Mississippi. And so, it's talking about these cells right here. As those move there towards the northeast, they're right along the Tennessee state line, potentially getting stronger. And that's what we're watching here in the next few moments. And models looking at that behind the scenes, the 0Z model coming out, it does show, at least during those overnight hours, again, we'll be here, don't worry about that. But there is going to be that line of storms working its way to the south right along the Tennessee state line, and there is still some potential. National Weather Service there in Jackson even talking about it, how it might be a later time than initially expected as that does continue to work its way towards the south right over here in North Mississippi. So this is not our one and done threats. A lot of you guys asking, can I go to bed? Can I be done with the severe weather threat? Unfortunately, no. It's just going to be an active 48-hour span starting tonight and working into our Tuesday night as well. So like Matt mentioned, if you have weather call, you're set, you're good to go. You'll be woken up if need be, because while we have to keep ourselves awake here in the Room to Room Weather Center, you don't have to. So don't stay up with us if you don't have to, but do wake up for any of those warnings and watches that do get issued as we keep you guys posted. So this is looking out of, I believe this is going to be the Memphis, let me make sure. Yes, so this will be the Memphis Tower, and not impossible there. Let me actually look at a loop real quick, because I've been trying to look at that behind the scenes, haven't seen the last couple of scans. So right there is where things got a little bit more interesting. You're starting to get some of those purples showing up on our DBZs. That might mean that we could be getting some of those small hail returns as well. Let me see if we have a look at that wind mode real quick. The wind mode does look more broad. I think that was where we were looking at just a moment ago. So let's see how this is trended. So as that moved through Como, captured attention a little bit, but yeah, not showing nearly the return. So that's a welcome sight for sure. And hopefully that's a sign of things to come as this does try to just be a rain producer at this point. Lightning on it. I'll have to go to the last scan as well to get a good look there. We're 25 strikes. We were at 32 earlier on. So those have come down as well. That's again a welcome sight. But as we've seen with multiple of these setups, it looks way more impressive than what that radar is actually reading. So as we bring that radar sight, or sorry, our camera view over there to Oxford, and this should still be looking to the north. We'll have a strike at times that we're able to get a visual on, right on cue. And what we're looking for is right there at the base to see if there is anything that stands out. Well, that looks like a decent lightning producer compared to what we just saw a moment ago. So we're looking right at the base. Let me check behind the scenes to see where this is looking out of. That looks way more action-packed when we're talking lightning compared to what we just saw a moment ago. So this would be looking towards the northwest. So this would be right into where we need to be seeing. Oh, there you go. Yeah, so lots of cloud to ground lightning with this compared to what we just saw on our lightning strike, or number of lightning strikes. So that's telling us that this is a little bit more energetic than what we're seeing right there. And that could also mean these are a little bit stronger as well. I'm trying to see if there is a visual at all. We're able to zoom this in a bit, and we'd have to be looking. Let me see if I can move it a little bit there towards the north and bring it down a little bit. There we go. Let's pay attention right there and see if we get anything, because we're looking right there at the base of this storm. I didn't see anything on that strike. So this again just looks to be a heavy rain producer, a lot of lightning. As I want to look behind the scenes, let me see if I can pull this up right here to see if we have any of those power outages. And as of right now, no. So these cloud to ground strikes have fortunately not struck the wrong things, and we've maintained power through the night. And let's hope that does continue as we clear things off and we bring it back up there towards the Blackwater area and Galena. That's moving right across Highway 4. And this is a look out of, this would be our Memphis radar site. So that's looking towards the southeast, towards Tullahoma and Laws Hill. Yeah, there's some of the hail returns that we were talking about just a moment ago. That'd be more aloft rather than on the surface. Our True Shield roofing hail threat not showing that as of the 8:38 hour, at least our hail swath, but we are getting that on our peak impacts. That is peak impacts. So that's what we'd expect the most out of these cells. So as we look at that cell, continues to be the heart of that area towards Tyrone and Blackwater, that we're getting some of those smaller hailstones aloft. Not impressive on our Mama Justice Doppler radar, as has been the theme throughout the afternoon and now evening hours. We're at 28 strikes. I think that might be underdoing it with how much lightning strikes we saw just a moment ago. Can we go to bed in Hickory Flat? How's it looking out in Corinth? What about Ripley? Well, let me say this about all of these towns that were just mentioned. It is going to be an extended threat that goes through tonight, that goes through, yes, the overnight hours into tomorrow morning, and then extends into Tuesday as well before that kind of does reach a calmer period by midweek. This is going to be an active 48 hours. So I do want you guys to have weather call, have the Mississippi Live weather app, because you shouldn't have to stay up with us through the overnight hours and lose your sleep. Trust me, we have a baby on the way. I would do anything to get those last couple hours of sleep, but I won't, because I'm going to make sure to watch these behind the scenes along with the whole team here at Mississippi Live Weather. So if you have weather call and if you have the Mississippi Live Weather app, then you are good to go to sleep at any point tonight that you want to go to bed, and that'll wake you up for when those storms are moving through your area. Anything for Boonville? Boonville, actually, we can actually bring it back here for a moment.
And I will say this, Gabe. Hickory Flat's still pretty close to the path of where this is going.
Yes.
You know, so I would still say I'm paying close attention to this still in Hickory Flat. Ripley's, you know, the three that you mentioned there are all kind of in the path of this. I would still, I wouldn't go to bed and be like, okay, all over down over here, you know, from Abbeville to Myrtle to Blue Mountain, Hickory Flat, Faulkner, Ashland. We're not there yet for you. You know, I mean, if we're saying where, you know, we're going to bed and, you know, kind of turning it down, I would say, you know, it's probably these locations southeast, right? This is the spot where there'll be some stuff eventually, but this tornado threat's not going to materialize for you. Northwest of this, I mean, and we probably could be more aggressive with how far northwest that line goes. But I would, of those spots you mentioned, I'd still be paying attention for a little while, at the very least having this app open on the side.
Yeah, and one of the things, my brain was running ahead of my mouth there. Northwest Mississippi is the area that we want to stay alert and stay awake tonight, but I was more so thinking of, like, yes, the Caledonia that you mentioned earlier on, there towards even Corinth, right out there on the outskirts of some of those potential storms. But yeah, the Golden Triangle, even there just south of Highway 82, overall doesn't look like a concerning threat for the immediate couple of hours, so that's where you're good to continue out your evening as planned. But yes, towards Ripley, Corinth, and Hickory Flat, Marshall County, up there towards Tate County, seeing those areas still deal with a pretty energetic environment. Now, what has changed over the last 20 minutes or so? Well, let's go ahead and zoom it out and let's talk about what has been issued. Well, we have a tornado watch that has been issued for the northern Arkansas area until 4 a.m. on your Tuesday. I know that's northern Arkansas. That doesn't matter to you directly, but what that should tell you is that we have an entire frontal system that's moving across this area. I mean, we're seeing all the warnings up there as well. And so I expect that this tornado watch will be extended into the overnight hours as well for western Tennessee. But eventually that front does extend towards the south into North Mississippi. And being that their cutoff time is 4 a.m. for northern Arkansas, by the time it reaches into North Mississippi, not saying a watch is necessarily going to be issued, but where